ClintonScottDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast. Brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. The Clinton Chamber of Commerce has moved back its annual dinner on the calendar this year, and it is quickly approaching. On the WHOW Morning Show Tuesday, Executive Director Janice Peterson says the final days to get tickets for the Saturday, March 2nd event is this week.
Our annual meeting is Saturday, March 2nd. It's going to be held at the Clinton Country Club. We have a great dinner planned. Their food is amazing anyway, and we have a great dinner planned. We have entertainment by comedian Jeremy Nunes, who I've heard has been here in town recently at an employee Christmas party, and everybody had a great time with him. And then we also will have a 50-50 drawing, silent auction, and we're going to launch our Blackstone Grill raffle. Need to get reservations in as soon as possible. I really need them by the end of the week, if at all possible. I'd prefer it, but I could push it a little bit. We got to give the caterer some notice.
Peterson reminds member businesses those votes need to come in today for the annual awards.
We sent an email out, a couple of different emails out to all of our chamber members, encouraging them to vote for the 2023 Business of the Year. So please look at your email. If you haven't, call the chamber. We'll give you a link. It's a SurveyMonkey link. That needs to be done by Wednesday so that we can get our awards ordered and everything. But we do large business, medium business, small business, and nonprofit of the year. It goes by membership size, basically, because we have them broken down into, our membership is based off of how many full-time employees you have, for the most part. And so it's broken down that way.
I see.
And then obviously nonprofits are in a separate category.
For chamber members, tickets are $50 a person or $90 for two. A table of 8 is $360. Peterson notes tickets are available for non-chamber members, but they're a little more expensive. Visit ClintonILChamber.com for more. You can also call the chamber at 217-935-3364 or stop into its office at 100 South Center Street on the Clinton Square. A project that Farmer City officials hoped would get done last year will finally get taken care of this year. On the WHOW Morning Show Tuesday, Sue McLaughlin, city manager for Farmer City, told regional radio they have several areas targeted for summer street work.
We're going to actually work on some roads. You know, we were supposed to do it last year, and the bids came up pretty high for us, so we thought, well, we'll try again in the spring and see if we can get, and we did get some better bids. It's going to be a mix throughout some residential areas. We're trying to hit roads that don't have water and sewer underneath them because it's, you know, if you're going to do that, you got to do the water and sewer first, you know. So these are some roads. We've got a little bit of West Green, West Market, South William, and then Ogo Drive, if people are familiar with the town, where we have cabinet land over there behind Casey's. We have the paramedic service for town back in there. We're going to do that road too to help the businesses out. That one's getting pretty rough.
As McLaughlin mentioned, the project was scheduled to be done last year, but because bids came in higher than anticipated, they received better bids this year and will take care of those this summer.
Yeah, each one came down about 10 to 20 grand. What we did was we bid it out in February. We just opened them last week. Because sometimes what happens is contractors want to do all their bidding in the late winter to plan for their summer. And so sometimes if you wait and bid that stuff out in spring or summer, you're getting, prices where it's like, well, I don't know if we really want to do the work, but we'll go ahead and bid on it. So sometimes your prices are higher. So I think that's why we save some money by waiting and trying again and hitting it early in the season. Glad you mentioned that because actually the streets I just listed are actually being funded between general funds, which is just regular tax dollars, and TIF money, because a couple streets are in the different TIFs. But we do have one small MFT project for repaving, which is Crabtree Court, which is over by our nursing home. Because we're going to save all our dollars, we're doing a big project at Plum and 150. So a lot of people might use Route 150. We have a lot of trucks that turn there because of the ADM facility. I think it's called Premier Cooperative now. That's in engineering right now. We might be able to do that later this year or next spring. So anyway, we're saving our MFT dollars for that. That's going to be a big project. So yeah, that's where the dollars are coming from.
According to McLaughlin, the city evaluates all its roads and has tried to make the most of its own funds on top of the motor fuel tax money.
It's a mixture. You're right. I mean, we still fill potholes, and we will be doing some spray patching is what we call it, to kind of fill in some bumps and dents. What we do is we did a kind of an overview of all our street conditions a couple years ago. And that tells us, okay, these are the worst ones, these are the next worst ones. And so we refer to that map frequently on the condition of the roads and kind of say, okay, we need to prioritize this road this year and this road next year, that kind of thing, in trying to play catch up. Because being a small town, we only have so much money. So we've also changed how we're doing it. You'll notice in some towns, including us, we started last year, where we're just doing like 4 feet on either side of the road, kind of like the edges, and not repaving the middle if it doesn't need it. So that helps our repaving dollars go a little further. Where we're getting the crumbling and the alligator cracking, taking care of those areas that are usually on the edge of the road.
McLaughlin indicates residents in the impacted areas will receive notice of the work happening around their neighborhoods. She anticipates those notices going out in late April or early May. News time is 18 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Wednesday. We've got plenty more coming your way next on the WHOW Morning Show.
Take advantage of leap year. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. Yes, we have an extra day this month. So come see our inventory of Chevrolet Trailblazers, Blazers, and the all-new Chevy Trax. It's a sharp, redesigned 5-passenger and affordable front-wheel drive. We also have a larger 7-passenger Traverse and a good selection of Tahoes. Use your extra day wise. Shop us online to see all our inventory. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
News time is 19 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Wednesday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. Valentine's Day is here, and scammers want to exploit those looking for love. According to the National Retail Federation, consumer spending will reach nearly $26 billion for Valentine's Day, and scammers want their chunk. Dan O'Brien, a scam investigator with the Better Business Bureau, wants consumers to look out for those romance scams.
Obviously, you have a monetary involvement. Usually, you're going to lose some money in these. But there's also the emotional hook into it too, Blake, and people are so embarrassed that someone who they believed that they cared about them took advantage of them for money, so they did not decide not to report it. And a lot of times these are older citizens, and they don't want their families to know, because it's like, well, wait a minute, if she can't or he can't function on his own, is giving money away to people, maybe they need to go to a home or something. So the romance scams are very damaging, both emotionally and financially.
According to O'Brien, scammers look for love online using phony profiles to siphon money from those believing they found a good partner. If you're part of a romance scam, file a complaint by visiting bbb.org. If you spend time on social media, chances are you've been seen an ad asking, do you have ADHD? The self-diagnosing quiz you are directed to often provides viewers with misconceptions about attention deficit hyperactivity disorder before they ever see a medical provider. Kyle Borky, Director of Behavioral Health Outpatient Services with OSF Healthcare, points to provide clarity, or hopes to rather provide clarity. He says ADHD starts in childhood, not adulthood.
If the question is, are adults being diagnosed with ADHD? Absolutely yes. Is it that they are developing ADHD in adulthood? That's a no, right? We know enough about the research that in order to receive a diagnosis of ADHD, we have to have symptoms starting in childhood, somewhere around that 7 years of age.
He adds there's no official test For ADHD, it's a whole set of symptoms that include how it's impacting your daily functioning and for how long. If you're an adult and think you have ADHD, Dr. Borky says seek medical attention with a professional as your first step. The governor is not offering many details about his planned budget address, but that's not stopping Republicans from getting ahead of the speech and calling into question any additional state spending. State Representative Noreen Hammond says the state could be facing a near $900 million deficit, and if that's the case, the governor should not offer up any new spending.
With what we're seeing, at least early on from GOMB, that we could be expecting about an $890 million deficit projection. So all of that is going to have to be taken into account. Over the past years, we have done some major expansions, and Human Services, for example, has grown by about $3.6 billion, and healthcare and Medicaid has grown by about 1.5.
Governor Pritzker will deliver his budget address next Wednesday. A project that was initially set to help the public has been halted with no signs of moving forward after public outcry shut it down. Dave Palmer is the manager of remediation projects. Dan Wilkins, partner external relations with Ameren, Illinois, along with Brian Bresch, Ameren, Illinois spokesman, says this was originally supposed to be a 4-month winter project to clear up the site for potential resident use. But Palmer spoke a lot about the background of the project that originally was going to take more than 100 years for the ground and pump system. Palmer says there should have been an easier way.
A couple of years ago, we looked at the data and thought, trying to figure out how long it's going to take to run the system because we'd removed a lot of mass from the subsurface. We got to a point where it's sort of diminishing returns given, the effort to run the system. Based on the modeling, it was going to be another 100-plus years of running the system. We thought there's got to be a better way with today's technology versus what was happening in 1995. So we gathered some more data via soil and groundwater sampling at the site and did some modeling and figured out, what the extent of residual chemicals in the subsurface. Did a couple feasibility studies of what the best technology would be to address it. And started engaging stakeholders to see if or what could we do something different, right? So the record of decision and consent order, with the U.S. EPA, including the IEPA as the lead agency for the site, we have an agreement. So we're going to run the system until we get to drinking water standards.
A pilot study was started to make sure that everything was good and that Ameren could get the best results. There's a lot of thought that things that are at the site are the same as they were 30 to 40 years ago, but Ameren says that's not the case. The hope was the project would get done during the winter, but after concerns from the public over smells, the site was shut down.
And so there's a community concern that what was there 30 years ago, so high concentrations of chemicals, is what's there now. And unfortunately, given just the processes for the regulatory agencies, right? So Superfund sites, a Circle site, US EPA, there's a process for stakeholder management, community relations, communication. There's also a process for reporting and the time it takes for them to get through and review it and approve it. We buried them in data. We were moving faster than they were, partly because we wanted to execute this project in the winter. So denser, cooler air, less vapors, less odor. Fewer people around, everybody's inside for the most part. So by design, we want to do it in the winter. We had just overwhelmed the agency. And so when there was a concerned voice that odors equals vapors equals bad, along with all the data we provide the agency, along with all the information requests from others, they got inundated and said, hey, let's call a timeout. Please stop. So we stopped.
After sitting for too long, the plans were scrapped because Ameren says they did not want to work on the project in the spring. Palmer says he doesn't believe there are issues with the site as far as health concerns.
No. Like I said, the groundwater pump treatment system's been running for 30 years. It's pulling groundwater to itself, right, and then being treated. There's 3 exposure routes for environmental concern. It's inhalation, ingestion, dermal contact. Can you breathe it? Do you ingest it in some way, or does it touch you? Any chemical at any site, in any town, anywhere, if you can't connect those exposure routes, or if they don't exist, there's not an exposure concern, right? So for 30 years, we've been pulling impacted groundwater to a system, treating it, discharging it. That hasn't changed, right? So the only thing we do is we disturb some soil at depth, moved it around a little bit. Unfortunately, by doing that, when you bring the machine back, tooling back up to the surface, you might have displaced a bit of it. Smells a little bit. We knew that was a risk. We planned to foam for that reason. So our air monitoring was literally right next to people, their breathing space. So people, anybody working there, want to make sure they're safe as well. So we start there, and then we monitor at the perimeter every hour, and then collect samples for laboratory analysis to make sure that our instruments are tracking the way they should be and correlate. And we've been doing that, since we started the work. So if nothing is an exposure risk for a worker on site, imagine the further away you get from that. And if we know with the fence line we don't have concern, we're not concerned.
Ameren says they have a good relationship with the EPA and the Illinois EPA, and says they understand, and that has led to no issues.
Agency's been good to work with. They just don't have the horsepower. So imagine you've got a team of people who we've been engaged with for 2 or 3 years, every step of the way. They know what we're doing. They know why we're doing it. We're following all the rules. We've met with them weekly. We had like 53 or 4 meetings. We said, "You guys good with this?" "Yes, keep going." Reporting, submit a bunch of reports, but imagine a stack of 1,000-page reports. It's just going to take time to get through them. So as they're doing that, and we're doing work, and then community members just pile on a whole bunch of data requests, they physically can't get to all of it. So it's still a good relationship. It's just they're buried, and that's part of why we had to stop work orders. If there was a concern, they had to address it. That's their job. But if they couldn't get through enough of the data to understand if there was a concern, we have to stop. This is their job to stop us, because if someone's concerned and they can't for sure say it's not a concern, we can't keep going. So still good relationship. It's just they've got to get through everything they've got to get through.
Ameren says a lot of the concerns that the public has on the project are public record. There is a public record of all the work being done at the CIPS site by visiting the public library or contacting Bresh at Ameren at 618-343-8087. State Senator Steve Stadelman advanced legislation through the Senate Judiciary Committee that he says will keep victims and survivors safe from their abusers by expanding the definition of stalking to include electronic tracking systems. With advances in technology, people are using electronic devices to keep track of their luggage, wallets, and other personal belongings. However, people are also using them to stalk others. Through Senate Bill 2683, Senator Stadelman is working to change the Stalking No Contact Order Act to consist with criminal definition of stalking.
As tracking devices become more popular, people are caught using them for the wrong reasons. Through Senate Bill 2683, we're working to change the Stalking No Contact Order Act.
According to studies, nearly 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men have experienced stalking. News brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Network News is now.
On the House majority is less secure following a special election in New York. Democrat Tom Suozzi defeating a Republican challenger for the congressional seat left vacant by the ouster of George Santos. By a single vote, House Republicans have impeached Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. They contend he violated his oath of office and breached the public trust in his handling of the border crisis. In a new Reuters Ipsos poll, about half of Americans think that President Biden got off easy in the classified documents investigation. Microsoft says it caught and disrupted attempts by some American adversaries to employ artificial intelligence against the U.S. On Wall Street this morning, stock futures are higher. The Dow futures are up 117 points. NASDAQ futures ahead 115. More details at srnnews.com.
If you are 65 or older, you know this. Watching your hard-earned
Time now for a look at sports. I'm Seth Lawrence with this report. In a game heard Tuesday night on WHOW, the Clinton Maroons topped the Tremont Turks 79-51 on senior night at Clinton High School. Clinton jumped out to a 14-0 lead and pulled away from there thanks to stifling team defense and a record-setting night from Mason Walker. The senior point guard drilled 5 first-quarter threes en route to setting a new Clinton High School record with 12 in the game. He broke the record previously held by his teammate, Brooks Kluver. The Maroons led by 20 after the first quarter and cruised to their 26th victory. Walker led the offense with 36 points and was the Serve Pro of Piatt DeWitt County. Player of the game, Keaton Graves added 15 points. Dawson Graves scored 12 for the Maroons. Tremont was led by Grant Williams with 12 points. The Turks go to 18-11 on the year and play at GCMS on Thursday. Clinton improves to 26-4 on the season and wraps up the regular season on the road Thursday night at Argenta Oriena. The Maroons then head to the regional, where their first regional game is next Wednesday at 7:30 at Olympia. Clinton faces the winner of Monday night's DMAC Tri-Valley matchup. In a game heard on WEZC and online at DeWittDailyNews.com, Trey Welter scored 30 points, and Monticello used a big start to hold off the second-half charge from state-ranked Tolono Unity to a 62-57 win Tuesday night in Illini Prairie Conference high school boys basketball action at the Seaver Center in Monticello. The Sages led 40-17 at the half. Maddox Quick hit a three as time expired, putting the Sages up big over its longtime rival, but the state-ranked Rockets turned up the intensity in the second half and charged back to within 5. The final margin, they would get within 7 at a couple of points in the fourth quarter. Welter made 8 of 8 free throws in the second half, and Monticello shot 16 for 20 as a team to keep the Rockets from completing the comeback. Monticello did not make a three-pointer in the second half, finishing 6 for 15 from distance and shot 45.5% overall. Unity finished shooting 47.2% and went 5 for 8 from 3. The Rockets out-rebounded the Sages 33-24 and used 12 offensive rebounds to score 7 second-chance points. The Rockets finished with 36 points in the paint. After committing just 1 turnover in the first half, Monticello turned it over 9 times. In the second half, Welter earned the Serve Pro of Piatt DeWitt County Player of the Game. Andrew Thomas led the Rockets with 11 points. Unity falls to 23-4 overall and 5-3 in the Illini Prairie Conference. Monticello and Unity could play again next week if the Sages win a 2A regional quarterfinal against Meridian on Monday. They will play Tolono again on Wednesday in regional semifinal action. The victory was the 17th consecutive for Monticello over Tolono Unity, as the Sages improved to 14-13 overall and 5-3 in the conference. Monticello wraps up its regular season Thursday night at Prairie Central. Tip time is 7 p.m. Hear the action on 95.9 FM WEZC and online at DeWittDailyNews.com. Zach Lewis paced a balanced scoring attack, and Blue Ridge pulled away from Tri-County Tuesday night, 77-57 in Lincoln Prairie Conference High School boys basketball action in Farmer City. Lewis finished with 21 points. 13 came in the first half. Wyatt Pearl added 14 points. Corbin Colbert scored 13, and Isaac Price and Colin Michaels each added 12 points. The Knights gradually pulled away through the first 3 quarters and used a big fourth quarter to finish off Tri-County. Blue Ridge moves to 16-10 overall and 6-4 in the Lincoln Prairie. They will host Ridgeview Thursday night to finish out the regular season. 4 players scored in double figures, and Maroa Forsyth took down Riverton 64-59 in Sangamo Conference High School boys basketball Thursday night in Riverton. The Trojans gradually upped its lead with each passing frame. Caden Maurer scored 16 to lead Maroa Forsyth. Zane Giles added 13 points, while Kobe Lane and Mitch Williams each scored 12. The Trojans go to 18-10 overall and 4-3 in the Sangamo. Riverton drops to 22-7. Maroa Forsyth finishes the regular season Friday night hosting New Berlin. The Argenta Orienta Bombers pulled out to a big lead early and never looked back, taming the Cerro Gordo Mint Broncos 70-36 in Lincoln Prairie Conference high school boys basketball action Tuesday night in Argenta. Jalen Flowers led the Bombers with 27 points. Argenta Orienta pulled out to a 23-4 lead after the first quarter. That would be trimmed to 35-22 at the half, but the Bombers extended it back to 59-35 at the end of the third. Ethan Mahan scored 15 for Argenta Orienta. Chase Logue added 13 points. Will Fussin scored 14 to pace the Broncos. Cerro Gordo Bement falls to 13-17 overall and 4-7 in the Lincoln Prairie. Argenta Orienta goes to 17-12 overall and finishes 9-2 in the Lincoln Prairie Conference. The Bombers wrap up the regular season with a game against Clinton on Thursday. Terrence Shannon Jr. shot 11 of 15 from the floor and finished with 31 points, leading 14th-ranked Illinois over Michigan 97-68 Tuesday night. Coleman Hawkins had 17 points and 5 assists for the 18-6 Illini, who go to 9-4 in the Big Ten. Marcus Damask had 13 points. Quincy Guerrier scored 10 with 7 rebounds in a game where most of Illinois starters were on the bench for the final 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Illinois coach Brad Underwood was happy to see his team's defensive intensity return after they lost Saturday to Michigan State. The Spartans scored on 9 of its last 10 possessions late in the game. Terrence Williams III had 17 points. Terrace Reed Jr. and Olivier Nakumba added 13 points apiece for Michigan, who drops to 8-17 overall and 3-11 in the Big Ten. They've lost 12 of 14 and is in last place in the Big Ten standings. The Wolverines have also lost 8 straight to the Illini. Shannon has scored 20 or more points in 10 games this season, despite missing 6 games with a suspension, and he has scored in double figures for 28 consecutive games dating back to January 31st of 2023. Illinois led Michigan 47-29 at the half, led by Shannon with 19 points. He made 4 straight three-pointers in the final 3:56 as Illinois went on a 16-2 run to end the half. Michigan coach Juwan Howard recruited Shannon when he entered the transfer portal after spending 3 seasons at Texas Tech, but Shannon decided to go to Illinois after committing to Michigan. This is the second season. This is Shannon's second season with the Illini. The victory over Michigan kept Illinois all alone in second place in the Big Ten, 2 games behind second-ranked Purdue. Each team has 7 conference games remaining. Michigan was without leading scorer and top assist man Doug McDaniel. The 5'11 sophomore guard is not traveling to road games because of an academic suspension that began with the Wolverines' January 11th game at Maryland. He has missed 5 road games, and Michigan has lost them all. His academic progress will be evaluated prior to spring break to determine if his suspension will be lifted. Illinois is at Maryland on Saturday. Johnny Kinzinger scored a career-high 31 points, and Illinois State handed number 23 Indiana State an 80-67 loss on Tuesday night in the Sycamores' first outing as a ranked team since Larry Bird led them to a national title game 45 years ago. Kinzinger, a freshman, went 10 of 12 from the floor and more than doubled his previous career best of 14. Miles Foster had 19 points and 12 rebounds for the Redbirds, who are 12-14 overall and 6-9 in the Valley. They stopped a 3-game skid, winning for the first time since December 21st and silenced the crowd at Holman Center. Indiana State's 9-game winning streak was snapped. The Sycamores had surged into the rankings thanks in part to an offense that came in ranking 5th nationally at 85.6 points per game. The they had a poor shooting night against the Redbirds, missing their first 16 three-point attempts and went 8 for 38 from beyond the arc. Julian Larry scored 20 points for Indiana State, who goes to 24-3 overall and goes to 13-2 in the Valley. They lost leading rebounder Jason Kent to an injury with 18:35 to play in the game. Kent had 8 rebounds when he was hurt in a scramble for a loose ball. Isaiah Swoop scored 18 points. Swoop's layup with 9:33 pulled Indiana State ahead 49-48, its first lead in the game, but Illinois State responded with a 17-8 run that pushed the lead to 65-55 with 3:49 remaining, and the Sycamores never threatened again. Illinois, the Redbirds gained an advantage most teams in the Valley don't have, a win over Indiana State, which could help improve the Redbirds' net ranking, which is the tiebreaker for the conference tournament seeding among teams that split their head-to-head matchups. Illinois State will host Evansville on Sunday. Bobby McCann registered the first hat trick of his NHL career as the shorthanded Maple Leafs beat the Blues 4-1 Tuesday night. William Nylander had the other goal for Toronto. Ilya Samsonov made 14 saves. The NHL's Department of Player Safety announced shortly before the opening faceoff it suspended Leafs defenseman Morgan Rielly 5 games for a cross-check to the head of Ridley Gregg following the Ottawa Center slapshot net goal in the final seconds of the Senators' 5-3 win on Saturday. The Leafs were also missing star forwards Mitch Marner and John Tavares, who were ruled out before warm-ups due to illness. The undrafted 27-year-old winger has shown offensive flair at lower levels, but it had been a challenge in the NHL through his first 36 games, especially on a team where he's battling for time. Further down the lineup, Alex Toropchenko scored for St. Louis, which entered 7-1-0 in its last 8 games. Jordan Binnington stopped 28 shots in the defeat. The Blues will host the Oilers on Thursday. Connor Garland scored twice. Dakota Joshua added a goal and 2 assists as the NHL leading Vancouver Canucks beat the depleted Chicago Blackhawks 4-2 Tuesday night. Nils Hoglander scored for the 3rd straight game as the Canucks improved to 36-12-6 with 78 points. Vancouver has not led the league this late in the season since 2012 when it went on to win the second of consecutive President's Trophies. Vancouver outshot the league-worst Blackhawks 38-23, controlling the puck for extended runs and dealing the Blackhawks their 7th straight loss. Thatcher Demko had 21 saves. The Canucks wrapped up a 5-game trip at 3-1-1 and swept the season series with Chicago 3-0. Tyler Johnson and rookie defenseman Kevin Korchinski scored for Chicago. Peter Mrazek blocked 34 shots. The Blackhawks at 14-36-3 with 31 points have scored just 15 goals in their last 13 games, all without rookie sensation Connor Bedard. The Blackhawks will host Pittsburgh on Thursday. Get sports anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.
This is staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki with your regional radio forecast. Ample sunshine expected today with daytime highs approaching 51. Southeasterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Mainly cloudy skies expected tonight. Chance for isolated rain showers. Lows dip down to about 40. About an inch of snow Friday. Hear weather twice an hour or online anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com.